What better way for a son and father to bond over than their mutual love for the Dallas Cowboys? Hi, I'm Michael Davis with my dad, Mack. We're a star-studded son and dad duo on the star-studded Cowboys Network, powered by Fans First Sports Network and Boom Broadcasting. And this is Dad and the Boys. How's it going, everybody? Michael Davis, my dad, Mack, for Dad and the Boys. We are back from a short hiatus. Partly, life's been crazy. Partly, I felt really bad after that Cincinnati Bengals loss. But you know what? We beat the Carolina Panthers, and I don't have to hear it from Carolina Panther fans because we are from North Carolina, and that means we're America's team. But we do want to cover that Panthers game briefly. We want to preview the Buccaneers game as well for Sunday night's matchup that did not get flexed. But I do want to talk, Dad. I think you're pretty happy because Micah Parsons didn't say what the PR guys wanted him to say. He didn't say what his agent probably wanted. Micah wants to be a Dallas Cowboy. He doesn't want to be traded. He doesn't want to hold out. He doesn't want to make max player money. He wants to be there and help the team be in position to win a championship. And I think that's probably not the financial aspect of it, but in terms of like the player he is and caring about others and caring about the team and its success, he wants to put them in the best position as possible. And he wants to be a part of that success.
Well, son, you're a single man. I got to give you a little bit of advice. You see, there's a relationship, right? Me and your mom. When I met her, I knew that I wanted to marry her. She's that kind of girl, right? But I didn't know what the other end of that equation was. If she even liked me, she wanted to marry me, or anything else. If you've been paying attention to social media, and I've got a bone to pick with social media and the media as a whole. Here we are coming off a very emotional loss against Cincinnati. And we should have won that game. The kid doesn't touch the ball. We win that game because Brandon Aubrey kicks a game-winning field goal. Our predictions are right. And so we're on a high. Then we go into Carolina. That didn't happen. So we're on an emotional downturn. And then we go to Carolina in our home state where there's a bunch of Carolina fans, even though they never show up for the game. And you got Dallas plays the best game they played all season and gives an emotional win for us, right? Yeah, we may not be going to the playoffs. That hasn't been confirmed yet, but there's very likely that we will not be there. But at least we beat Carolina. And so we're on that high. We want to enjoy that victory, right? And so what does the media do? Oh, now they're going to bring up Micah Parsons in the offseason. We're going to have several months of that during this offseason. And they want to bring this up, and they want to bring this up. And you see, we know what Micah feels. He even said he doesn't have to be the highest paid player. Right? He said it out of his own mouth. And then they asked Stephen Jones about Micah's contract. And he tells them, we committed to CD, we committed to Dak. And Stephen just kind of opened that door just a little bit for a potential Micah Parsons trade.
Jerry's like those.
But Jerry, close that door. Yes, you go, boy. There's the other part in that relationship that makes it special. Just like me and your mama, we had to come together. Micah and Jerry had to come together and keep us whole as a family. And Jerry gonna make it happen.
Yeah, the fact that there are these trade rumors trying to swirl around. I won't even give him credit for this one, but I had a guy tell me, Micah to Carolina makes a lot of sense. he said this a couple weeks ago. I was like, you guys trade Christian McCaffrey. You guys give up DJ Moore. You guys trade DJ or Brian Burns. I'm like, you know Micah Parsons wouldn't come to Carolina. What's the last free agent that came to Carolina willingly?
You know, only time Micah makes sense is on Madden. When we go in and we do our little finagling and we get 10 first-round draft picks every year, yeah, if you can lay that out for the next 10 years, I'll give you Micah. Have fun. But Micah ain't going, baby. He's staying because that's what it takes. That's what the only way that would be fair is you give 10 first-round picks for Micah Parsons for the next 10 years. He's that good. He's a generational talent. And, folks, those generally don't get traded. It's a rarity that they ever get traded. I mean, what would be the asking price? I can't even fathom one.
Yeah.
What do you give for Patrick Mahomes? I mean, come on. What do you give for Patrick Mahomes?
I give a lot. But it's like Micah Parsons is not only a guy who plays his heart out, will be on the field, plays various different positions, very hard for teams to, coach and game plan against. And in addition to that, he's already said he would take less money to stay.
And he wants to retire a Cowboy.
Yeah. I mean, why would you leave a good workplace?
You know what it is, don't you?
What?
Micah's been paying attention to my top 100 list on Starstruck. He wants to climb that up there. He wants to get to the pinnacle.
And
he very well could by the end of his career.
Hey, we'll see where he ends up. You guys can catch Starstruck. Dad did his next 5 last week, and then he'll do the next 5 tomorrow. Around 3 p.m. on Boom Broadcasting and Fans First Sports Network. And you also cover the injury report. So we're not really going to dive into what the injury report will be for the Buccaneers game. I'll let you handle that. But I do want to talk about 2 people we'll be without. We'll be without Trayvon Diggs for the rest of the year. Won't have that Diggs-Bland pairing that we've wanted for so long. But we also won't have Micah's counterpart, DeMarcus Lawrence. In addition to that, we won't have Zack Martin.
In addition to that, we won't have DeMarvion Overshawn because we really haven't touched on that injury since the Cincinnati game either.
So, why do you have to remind me?
I mean, it snowballed. I mean, it keeps. And understand this: DeMarcus Lawrence, and I think the world of you, Tank. But, honestly, you haven't been there since the first Giants game. I mean, so you're kind of right now in the injury thing, you're an afterthought because they've adjusted with Carl Lawson and stuff. Diggs, you came back, you played against Cincinnati, and you got hurt. And that's sad. Your knee. There's reports out there that the organization's not happy with the way he rehabbed his prior injury.
But then those reports got refuted because they're like, hey, Trayvon was doing the very best he could. And he was fighting through
it. And Trayvon's a warrior and he keeps fighting and stuff. And DeMarcus is. I mean, there was hopes that he would be able to come back this year. Unfortunately, the foot just didn't cooperate. There hasn't been a lot of right before Cincinnati, there was a report out that Stephen Jones said, we're not sure if he will come back against Cincinnati, but we should get him sooner than later. And then next thing you know, DeMarcus comes out and says, guys, I won't be back by Cincinnati, and I probably won't be back by Carolina. And then all of a sudden, there was nothing. It was crickets. And next thing you know, we won't get him back at all. They're shutting him down for the entire year, which may end up shutting him down for his entire remainder of his Cowboy career, just the same way as Zack Martin, because those 2 are free agents, and they may or may not be back. We may not be able to sign them. In all honesty, I mean, when they drafted him, I thought that Marshawn Nealon was the next one in line to take over for DeMarcus Lawrence.
But we're not getting Marshawn Nealon too much. Like, we've gotten bits and pieces.
But he's coming along. He's playing very well and stuff. And so, I mean,
we just don't know if he'll be the caliber of DeMarcus Lawrence when we need to keep our championship window open. But is DeMarcus Lawrence still DeMarcus Lawrence?
Right. I mean, because the health foot, what's wrong with his foot? Why is the setback? This is the second time he's had a foot injury that cost substantial time. I don't know if it was the same foot or not, but it's the second time in recent memory. I mean, if you think back when the year that we ended Tom Brady's career.
Yeah, we did.
I mean, he got hurt in that game. In the season opener, he was out 8 to 10 weeks and came back.
2022, by the way.
And played. So, I mean, you're talking 2 years ago, and now he's got another foot injury. Is his foot going to be and his body going to allow him to play? 10 years in the NFL is a very, very long time. It's like when I joined the military and I was in the Army, my dad told me, he said, 20 years, son, you can retire. You can retire at 38. I was like, Dad, you don't understand. I look around and I see some of these guys that I'm stationed with, in their late 30s, early 40s. I said, my God, they look like they're 60. I mean, it ages you. The constant stuff and football ages your body. I mean, you're taking collisions day in and day out. So, I mean, it's one of those things where, time's the enemy that's not defeated.
Yeah, it's pretty sad, especially if this is the way that Lawrence's career with the Cowboys ends with Zack Martin. But we'll have an entire offseason to speculate on that. We did mention that we haven't gotten to talk about the Carolina Panthers victory, and so we want to take a quick commercial break. If you're listening to us on Fans First Sports Network and watching us on Boom Broadcasting, and we're going to be back with a quick Panthers recap, and then we'll do the Buccaneers preview as well right next on Dad and the Boys. Welcome back to Dad and the Boys. 30-14, the Dallas Cowboys won in Carolina, and everybody else is probably looking like, yeah, that was expected. Oh, yeah, you beat Carolina, big whoop. When you live in a state where you don't root for that team and you have to hear about it all the time, people still mention that year Cam Newton beat us on Thanksgiving. The one good year that Cam Newton had in his career, one of two, I guess, his rookie year being included. We hear about that all the time. So we knew the significance of this Cowboys-Panthers game for just living in our local area of North Carolina, but Dallas got it done 30-14. Dad, this was probably the most complete game Dallas has played.
Well, I mean, not only that, they talk about, you got to understand, Dallas is actually 3 of their last 4 are wins. Should have been 4 for 4, except for a fluke play.
They would have been 7-7.
7-7, vying for the playoffs. And feasibly can potentially get there. So, I mean, but they're 3 of 4, and that was a win over Washington. That was a win over the Giants, which is a divisional game, even though the Giants' record is not the best, and they kind of checked out, and they're trying to get that top draft pick.
And it was on a short week.
Right. It was on a short week. And then you throw in the fact that a fluke play cost them the game against Cincinnati.
Who had a hot offense.
Right. And then you throw in a Panthers team. Now, yes, Panthers are 3-11, but you know what? Over the last course of the month, there's been talk in Carolina about how this team is turning a corner. I mean, they played the Kansas City Chiefs to a close game. They they gave Philadelphia everything they could handle. I mean, those two quality top of the league teams right now that they lost to recently.
And the Buccaneers.
So, I mean, all three of those are legitimate playoff teams. I mean, so and they beat the Saints. You know, am I reading that right? Did they beat the Saints and the Giants?
Yeah, they beat the Saints and the Giants. But,
you know,
and also, like, people were saying, hey, Bryce Young's coming on, which, guys, you can't really evaluate a quarterback until you have 3 years of them, because you can struggle in your first year and then come back, or you can do a CJ Stroud and have a sophomore slump. You just need 3 complete years to evaluate a quarterback. But Bryce was having a few good games, and then you could hear the commentators. Even Greg Olson was like, what's happened today? He's regressed. Panthers came in over the last month having the most pressure of any of the NFL teams, and they played against Dallas's banged up, bandaged up offensive line, and Dallas only gave up 1 sack, which, by the way, that is probably the most astonishing thing to me, that Dallas only gave up 1 sack when you're like, oh, Cooper Beebe's out this game.
Well,
oh, this one goes down. Oh, that one goes. It was one after the other.
And they brought Guyton in because they had to move Adoga because Bass going down. You know, but not only that, what astonishes me is you look back over the last month and the fact that Rico Dowdle is leading the league in the rushing category.
That shocks me.
With this makeshift offensive line. So, I mean, these guys are playing hard for Mike McCarthy. And you know, probably one of the best headlines for the Dallas Cowboys coming in the state of North Carolina is the fact that Bill Belichick is now on the UNC Tar Heels sideline. So he won't be leading the Dallas Cowboys next year. There was fears of that. You know, and nothing against Bill Belichick. He's the greatest coach of all time. Super Bowl wise, not winning wise, but Super Bowl wise, he's the greatest coach of all time. Of course, he did have Tom Brady for all those Super Bowl victories. Brady's got an additional one in Tampa Bay, our upcoming opponent. But the fact is without Brady, Belichick hasn't really done a lot and have that success. And so I did not want him replacing McCarthy next year. Yeah. I really didn't. You know, and I hope Mike keeps his job. There's rumors going around that it's looking like he might. These guys are playing hard for him. We've talked over it numerous times on Dad and the Boys, on Out of Pocket, and other broadcasts here on Boom Broadcasting and Fans First Sports Network, how the front office kind of handicapped him this year with not a lot of free agency moves other than signing our own guys. They done it very late, but how they handicapped him with not going out and getting a Saquon Barkley or Derrick Henry or this one or that one, going out and getting this talent, letting talent walk out the door. And then the injuries, my Lord. I'm not saying that Dallas is the most injury-riddled team this year, but there's not anybody that can argue that they're not.
Yeah.
I mean, them in San Francisco have just been riddled. And it isn't, you know, just, okay, well, our 6th-string cornerback, he got injured. He's out for the season. No, this is Pro Bowlers, All-Pros, and starters that are going down with injuries. Some of them weeks, multiple weeks. Some of them a few weeks. Most of them been prolonged injuries or all season. So, I mean, you know, the fact that he's got this team sitting at 6-8, we're 3 weeks left in the season, and they're not eliminated from the playoffs.
That's a win. Well, in that Cincinnati game, like, it would have been 7-7, and we'd be like, oh, we have Washington again, and we have this game against the Buccaneers. We're starting to talk about it.
If you're sitting there looking at Dallas's schedule objectively, there are 3 games left
Buccaneers, Commanders, Eagles.
Right, with the Eagles being in between the Commanders and the Buccaneers. Eagles is probably the only one you would say dead set that they couldn't win. And they could potentially win that one because, again, it's a division game. The Eagles will probably have the division wrapped up. Are they going to rest any starters? Now, chances are they won't because they don't want Dallas to get in the playoffs. And feasibly, I mean, you're looking at Washington, who is what?
9-5.
9-5. You know, yeah, they would have to lose out. So the chances of that happening are not going to have that great for Dallas to overtake them. But I mean, you know, we're at this point, we're not eliminated from playoff contention.
And it does help that Dallas doing the best they can, and if not even make the playoffs, could finish 9-8 if they win a season after all the adversity. We're talking about the injuries. Dak didn't play this game. Cooper Rush had his best game, 18-29, 214 yards, 3 touchdowns, only sacked 1 time. CeeDee Lamb still just playing so hard through a shoulder injury. Rico Dowdle, we mentioned, we hadn't had a 100-yard rusher since week 2 or 3 of last season with Tony Pollard. Rico's done it 3 consecutive games.
Well, and you want me to add something to that?
What?
Did you have you realized that PFF has actually listed Dallas offensive line as the 4th best run blocking unit?
That's wild.
That they're at the 4th bet. Their run block wins is at 4th.
Wow.
I mean, go figure.
I guess when TJ Bass comes in and Brock Hoffman are like, right, guys, we're going to run. But it's working.
These guys are actually stepping up. I mean, they really are. I mean, you know, the only player on Dallas's offensive line that has played in every game
is Terrence Steele. And he's not our best. He is our 5th best, maybe 6th, 7th, 8th best. I'm sorry. I'm not going to be that guy.
He's not had a Terrence Steele year.
He's definitely
there
regressed.
was better expectations for him, but he's the only player to have played in every game for the offensive line. Yeah,
and so the recipe worked. Rico Dowdle, 25 carries, 149 yards. That's 6 yards a carry. Allowed Cooper Rush to have more opportunities in the passing game. CeeDee Lamb, 9 catches, 116 yards, a touchdown. And then for the first time ever, Jalen Tolbert, Jalen Brooks both scored a touchdown in the same game. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that would have been Jalen Brooks' first career touchdown as well.
It is his first career touchdown. And by the way, speaking of that, have you thought of it? Jalen Brooks, Mukwamu, and Rico Dowdle
all played for South Carolina.
Coming home to what would be considered the home team for South Carolina, the Panthers, coming home to Charlotte.
And they all balled out.
And having their best game of their career.
Well, Brooks, his first career touchdown. Rico Dowdle, career high, 149 yards. And then Mukwamu with the interception later in that game. But that all allowed Dallas to win 30-14. And now they go to Tampa Bay Sunday night on NBC on Peacock, where the 6-8 Dallas Cowboys play against the vying NFC South 8-6 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And we're going to take one final.
Before you do, and because I know we want to get to Buccaneers, but I want to wrap up one thing about the Carolina game.
Okay.
And son, ask yourself this. This is the first game you've watched all season where from start to finish, you felt comfortable as a Cowboys fan. From start to finish. I mean, yeah, there was that 2 plays scenario where Cooper fumbled the ball in the red zone and then they scored on the very next play. But other than that, Dallas shut them down. they shut them down. They shut their rushing offense down. They really shut the quarterback down, made him look regress like the struggling quarterback he's been. And they basically dominated from start to finish for the first time this year.
Yeah. And I'm hoping this is the same with the Buccaneers game. But we'll have to cover that after this commercial break. We gotta get our sponsors in, Dad. You can't delay them. We need the money. We don't.
Hey, money. We've been on break ourselves for almost 2 weeks.
Hey, yeah, we definitely gotta get these sponsors in. But yeah, we'll take our final commercial break. Talk about the Buccaneers Cowboys Sunday night matchup now on Dad and the Boys. Welcome back to Dad and the Boys. Michael Davis, my dad, and Mac. And it is Sunday night football. We have not been flexed because people still understand Dallas equals ratings. Cowboys host the Buccaneers, and usually that'd be disappointing. That'd be a little fearsome of me because Dallas hadn't won a home game until that Thanksgiving outing against the New York Giants. Cowboys playing with a lot of confidence. We talked about it right before going to the break. And they host the Buccaneers, who are vying for an NFC South crown. They know they'd get an automatic playoff bid. And the Falcons, we talked about this yesterday on Out of Pocket, have benched Kirk Cousins for Michael Penix Jr. So you don't know what the Falcons have in Penix Jr. And now the Buccaneers know what they have in Baker Mayfield, know what they have in that team, know what they have in Mike Evans, and they're going to try to repeat as NFC South champions. Dad, what do you expect in this game, and how has Dallas ruined Tampa Bay's moment?
Well, I look for Dallas to give a good, hard effort despite the injuries. But I hate to regress a little bit, but, it got me thinking as I was sitting there watching it and looking at the stats and looking at everything. And Tampa Bay's having a little bit better year. They're leading their division. Of course, it is the NFC South where they all teams struggle. But, a few years back, it was you and your brother and me that would go to WrestleCade.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorite memories, and I mean, one of my favorite parts of WrestleCade is getting to meet Shane Douglas and this one and that one, But one of my favorite pictures, and I forgot to get it to where you put it in the graphics, and he wouldn't let me because of copyright information play Iron Maiden, But I'm not as confident about this game because we are the Road Warriors. Our record on the road is great. Our record at home is just struggling a little bit this year. Although we have played better at home lately. I mean, we beat the Giants. We should have beat Cincinnati, who I think is a better team than Tampa Bay, by the way. So I feel confident that we can come up, and if we play our best ball, don't have the unfortunate mistakes, I think we can match up with them.
You think so?
I do.
Okay. Well, what is it will be a tough game. Tampa is favored in this game by 4 points. Baker Mayfield playing with a lot of confidence right now. 32 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. So if Dallas can actually take the ball away from Baker Mayfield, it could make a difference. And if Dallas keeps feeding Dowdle.
I mean, we've got to feed Dowdle, and we've got to take and, get Zeke a few touches when it's 4th down and 1 or 3rd down and 1. Let him eat. You're right.
There was a nice formation that Bucs game where they had 3rd and short, and they had Zeke, they had Lamb, and they had Turpin in the backfield. I was like, where was this formation 10 weeks ago? Oh my goodness.
And there too, just sitting there thinking about it, I do. I think Dallas can do it. I mean, I know we typically do our one-star matchup. My matchup is going to be just like it was in the Cincinnati game. Refs, this is holding. Micah gets held every play. Call it a couple times.
And if Mike McCarthy gets in the ref's ear and says, "Hey, Micah's getting holding," and the refs start calling it, Micah's like, "Hey, I might give you a discount. I might give you a discount."
Yeah, I mean, it's like, hey, he's either getting held or he's getting the pressure or he's getting the sack. One or the other.
Well, for me, my one-star matchup is if Marshawn Nealon plays this game, that will be huge. But I'm looking at what this run defense can do against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have Bucky Irvin, who have Rachaad White. They're dealing with some injuries themselves. So a couple of those guys on a game time decision.
Maurice Leafau, maybe. Maurice Leafau.
But that front seven with Maurice Leafau, who did really good in that Carolina game. Osa Odighizuwa's coming on, making him indispensable this offseason. Mozzie Smith playing next to him.
Mozzie's one of the top-rated run defenders.
We'll need it. We'll need
last month.
We'll need it.
Mozzie, the man I've been preaching for. Mozzie's one of the top-rated run defenders of the last month.
We'll see how that continues to go too. But yeah, my one-star matchup, the run game versus the run defense. You got to control the clock, get in our offense's hands, and that will allow Rico Dow and the offense to run really well. So I guess that's our one-star matchup, and you're sticking with the holding one. But is that going to be enough? What's your final score prediction?
Dallas by 1.
He's got Dallas by 1. I just think there's way too many injuries. I think there's so many injuries. Tampa sees Atlanta in the position they are. Dallas is at home.
Atlanta just gave them the chance to win the division.
Yeah. With all the injuries, I think it's going to be a real fight. I'm going to go Tampa by 5. I'm going to go Tampa by 5 in this game. But that's how I see it going down. And I'm not going to be happy because I'm not a big Baker Mayfield guy.
You're not going to be happy because Christmas is next Wednesday.
Hey, you already did your shopping. No,
I'm not.
Well.
No, I'm not. Mom and I were going to go finish it up this Saturday, but it looks like everybody else in the family just got their Christmas list extended. Santa's not going to be a pleasant camper for you, son.
But if the Buccaneers lose, then I just helped our team superstitiously. Maybe a little stitious.
Maybe a little stitious.
We'll update you guys next week on how Christmas goes. But remind you guys, Starstruck will drop tomorrow at 3 with a full injury report with my dad. The next 5 in your favorite 100 Dallas Cowboy list. He's doing math.
Yeah,
He's doing math.
Have I sent you that list yet?
You have not. So
okay.
we got to produce it. But we're getting into the top 60 now. So Dad's going to drop that list. And also keep tuned on our social media channels. We understand next week is Christmas. If you understand what Boom did for Thanksgiving last month, we left it up to our content creators, what they needed to do, what they wanted to do. Some will still provide content for you guys over the holiday season, but others will spend time with their families, which we very much encourage.
If Tampa Bay wins, I will definitely be dropping Starstruck, maybe even a couple episodes because I don't want to spend time with him at that point. I love you.
Wow. Well, I'll let you guys get back to your regularly scheduled lives. Thanks so much for tuning in to, I guess, what's now become a rarity in Son and Dad bonded time over Dad and the Boys on Boom Broadcasting on Fans First Sports Network. We appreciate you guys. Be sure to follow. Be sure to subscribe. Share it with a friend if you think they'd enjoy this. And guys, remember, this isn't our first rodeo. We'll catch you here next time.
And congratulations, CD Lamb, on 1,000-yard receptions. this year.
Thank you. Thank you, CD. We'll see you guys next time.